In 1988, GRCs were introduced as 3-member teams. Then Deputy Prime Minister Goh Chok Tong told Parliament that the GRCs would ensure minority representation. Just 2 years later, in 1990, GRC size was increased from 3 members to 4, the reason being population growth within 3-member GRCs. In 1996, GRCs were increased from 4 members to 5 to 6 members. We were told that this was to provide the critical masses of residents needed for the Community Development Councils, or CDCs, to work. But these arguments are clearly red herrings. As then Deputy Prime Minister Goh had already said in 1988, even if all seats were ran as single seats, MPs could still group together after the elections for economies of scale. The reasons given by the PAP also do not explain why, coincidentally, GRCs which were nearly won by the Workers' Party, such as Eunos GRC and Cheng San GRC, disappeared in the following elections. In 2006, some light was shed as to how the PAP benefited from GRCs. Senior Minister Goh spoke of the PAP's recruitment challenge, and he said, and I quote, "Without some assurance of a good chance of winning at least their first election, many able and successful young Singaporeans may not risk their careers to join politics," unquote. Interesting. Are we to infer that the PAP candidates these days are not what they used to be? On a separate note, Minister Mentor also made comments that the Health Minister should be ready to lead his own GRC team after being under his wing in Tanjong Pagar GRC for 4 years. So it seems that the GRC is a useful recruitment and training tool for the ruling party. Has the GRC strengthened or weakened politicians' mandates? Back in 1988, Dr. Ahmad Mata already hit the nail on the head. His views were quoted in Parliament as follows, and I quote, "As a Malay, I don't think I would like to contest in any elections where my victory is guaranteed, not because I am a strong candidate, but because I have a so-called strong twin brother to lean on," unquote. How do voters feel about GRCs? The government might want to do a big national survey to find out. It is not uncommon for Singaporeans to become residents of different GRCs in successive elections without moving house at all. The jokes about boundaries are endless, with residents of Serangoon asking for their Marine Parade sea view and Tanjong Pagar GRC now fronting MacRitchie Reservoir. In my view, there has clearly been political degeneration as a result of the GRCs. To arrest this, the amended motion calls for the government to amend the constitution to abolish GRCs and revert to a system of single seats where each candidate is judged on his or her own merits. Can this be done? Of course. The Electoral Boundaries Committee will give effect to any changes to the system that are made. How do we ensure minority representation then, some might ask? Singapore's history has shown that, in the past, minority candidates stood and won single seats. PAP MPs such as Mr. Dhanabalan, Mr. Rajaratnam, Mr. Siddiq Sanif, Mr. Zulkifli Mohammed have done so. So have opposition leaders like Mr. Jeyaratnam in Anson, a predominantly Chinese constituency. This was so even in the 1984 general election. Are we now saying that Singapore has regressed as a society? Or is the PAP now saying that they have less confidence in their current minority ministers, MPs or new candidates winning on their own? Finally, sir, I move to the issue of a time limit for the by-elections under a system of single seats. Even though the obligation is already there, as I said earlier, the issue lies in the lack of a definite deadline by which a by-election must be called after a vacancy arises. This has led to long and unjustified delays in holding by-elections. For instance, in 1986, when MP for Anson, Mr. Jeyaratnam, was disqualified from office, no by-election was held in Anson for 2 years until the 1988 general election. This loophole should be plugged. This is not a new issue for this House. It came up 9 years ago when Workers' Party filed a motion to debate whether a by-election should be held in Jalan Besar GRC. The ruling party was not willing then to write in a time limit. Even if a law sets no time limit for something to be done, the interpretation is that it should be done within a reasonable time. In this case, a few months, not years. In the circumstances, we support explicitly providing a 3-month deadline which is the same period as in the earlier Malaysian legislation. The amended motion reflects this.
Order. I propose to take the break now.